Alright, Banshee Fever 750 here, coming at you with a troubleshooting tip. Last time I was out there riding, I did notice that my temperature gauge was a little higher than usual. So, but when I would start riding, the temperature would actually drop back down to its normal operating temperature. But when I would sit still, or if I was riding really slow, the temperature was rising, getting close to the red, when normally it's at half or below. So I was trying to figure out what it was, and first thing that came to my mind was like, well, the fan, maybe it's the radiator fan went out. So what I did was I went for a ride and the temperature dropped back down. So if it was a bad water pump, that can usually they leak. When they're going bad, they'll leak, or they just ultimately fail. So I ruled that out, and I says, well, let me try a simpler approach. So I noticed as I would ride, when I would increase the flow through the radiator, the temperature would drop back down to normal. So what I did was, when I got back home, I put a fan, one of these high flow fans, and I put the fan in front of the ATV. I put it on my workbench, and as you can see, I had it blowing right at the radiator. So once the ATV got really hot, and I let the temperature climb all the way up to the top, I revved it up a few times. I got it up to not hot, but just above operating temperatures. I clicked on the fan that was blowing air here towards the radiator, and sure enough, it was cooling it off. So, okay, now next step is, I'm just sitting here trying to figure things out, and I'm like, all right, so it's either the fan, the radiator fan, or it's the switch. So I want to show you something. The actual fan switch on my ZX7R Power Banshee is right here. You can see, I'm going to point right to it. See it there? Okay, and I welded it on there where I had somebody TIG weld it on there for me, but this is a custom setup, okay? This radiator didn't have that. This is a Yamaha Banshee radiator, and it didn't. They don't come with fans on them, so I had to put that fan switch on there and then make a bracket for a fan. So one of the tips and tricks I wanted to show you today was my version of testing out the switch and the fan. So what I wanted to do was, what I did was I took a screwdriver. Now you want to make sure you don't touch any metal here. I mean, you can actually take these two off. If you take these two, slide these two plugs off, and you can actually jumper wire them. Stick a wire, a little short piece of wire in here and here, and see if the switch turns on. But this is kind of what I'm doing here is like a trail method. When you're on a trail and you're out there and riding, you don't have many tools or things with you. But if you have a screwdriver, watch, you're going to see what's going to happen here. Now you want to make sure when you see these two connectors here, and see those two pins, 1, 2. Now when the temperature sensor triggers, when it hits the high temperature range and it triggers the fan to turn on, what it does is it creates, I guess you want to call it like a short. So it closes. So when it closes, basically these two pins, when it closes, it makes the electricity flow from the hot, flows through, and it goes to your fan. When the switch is open, the power is disconnected from the actual fan, this guy over here. So I'm going to close it, and I'm going to mimic what the switch would do if it was working. And let's see if the fan, and this is how you eliminate the possibility of your fan switch not being good. Hear that? See if I can get it. There you go. See, the fan is staying on. That's just me wiggling my fingers. It's hard to do this with my hand. Hear the fan? And it's blowing, it's pulling good air. I mean, I can feel it. It's pulling good air. So it's not to say that the fan will cut off when it's hot. You know what I mean? Because sometimes these electric motors, when they get hot, they'll cut off. But what I'm willing to bet is that my switch is bad. And there's other methods. You can put them in water and take the temperature of the water, and then put your meter on the actual pins and see what the reading is, see if it closes or not. But this is basically a trail method. If you're out in a campsite or on a trail and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and if you're constantly overheating, another tip you can do, another trick, let's say you can't get the switch. Let's say you don't have a switch and you're out on a trail and you're riding and you're like, dang it, you know, I'm not riding fast enough, my ATV's overheating, all that stuff, you know, but I want to keep on riding. I want to enjoy my ride. I want to go out there and have a good time. So what you can do is you can get back to your campsite, you know, run to the hardware store, grab a switch and some wire. And, you know, just stick the wire inside each hole and put some tape on there, and then you can run it to a switch somewhere and you can turn the fan on and off. You can bypass that automatic sensor, the heat sensor switch. So that's just another thing. It's good to keep a little extra spare switch in your toolbox. You know, when you're out there riding far away from home, you know, way up north or way down south and there's nothing around, you know, I always keep little switches, little rolls of wire. I try to carry a few little, you know, odds and ends for weird little fixes like that. You know, keep it with your fuses and your spark plugs and everything else you got going, your little survival kit. And so you can always bypass that switch if it needed to be. And in a really, really bad situation, all you got to do is just connect those two wires, cut the wires with a knife, and connect the wires, and your fan it'll just stay on even if you shut the ignition switch off, because those are usually just wired straight to the power source. You know, there's always there's one wire that's live. So remember, the switch is what turns it on and off. So it'll just be a live feed wire to that. So, you know, there's different things you can do. But in my case, I just kept it moving, and you know, I'd give it plenty of cool off time before I shut it down. So I want to show you real quick. I did order the switch. Show you what this looks like. It came in a little box like that. It's always fun to unbox, right? Let's see. They kind of rolled it up like that. Didn't do a bad job. I was actually impressed. I mean, it was wrapped up pretty good. There's the new switch. And some switches don't have the markings on them, but this one, you know, remember, this is a ZX7R ATV, so I welded the bung off the old ZX7R radiator. You know, I cut it out and I welded the bung onto my Banshee radiator. I cut a hole out and I welded the bung so I can use the ZX7R fan switch sensor. And you can see on at 92 degrees Celsius, off at 87. And you know what, I had the conversion written down, but I think that was that equated to be like, you know what, I'm not going to make myself sound stupid. So, but it was ideal for this specific application. The temperature range. It was actually turning on a little. It was a little cooler, so that's fine with me. And you know, it would turn on and turn off. It will turn on at instead of turning on, like for instance, I'll just give an example. 220 degrees. It was turning on at 215, and then it shuts off, you know, at 200, so to speak. So that's the range. That's the on range, the hot range. And when it hits 87 degrees Celsius, that's when it shuts off. Now, I do have extras. I mean, I've got these things, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've got a few laying around. So, but I just chose to go with the newer one, and you know, you see I've got one right there, sitting right there on the shelf. I've got one on other radiators. I've got some on bins. They're all used ones. And I just didn't feel like dealing with a used one. I says, you know, if it was a situation where I couldn't get a new switch, then yeah, I'll just grab one off the shelf, one of the used ones, and throw it in there. But, you know, I'm just trying to, you know, do a one and done deal here. You know, if I don't have to worry about it for the next couple of years, that's fine. If you use a used switch, a used one, you know, you may put it on there and it may fail within an hour. It may never fail. It may not fail for, you know, 10 years. So you're throwing dice. And even with the new ones, you're throwing dice. But you know what? You've got a better chance of just buying a new switch They're about 47 bucks. You can shop around, get them for 20 and 17, and you know, you gotta look around for them. You can find them. I got this one for 13, so it's not an OEM one, but out of all the ones out there, the quality was better on this guy here. And I like the fact that there were some other ones that were more expensive that didn't have the stampings for the heat range. So to me, that shows that there's a little more quality to this one, being that the numbers are stamped on there, you know, when it turns on and off. Came with the O-ring, and it just looks like a pretty good sensor. You know, the epoxy looks good. Everything looks good on it. So that's that. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's kind of one of the things I got planned for today. I'm going to pull out the old sensor and put the new one in. I know my fan's working. I know I'm getting power to the switch. So, and my water pump is fine. So it's more than likely the switch. So that's my way of fixing it. As you can see, I just put a couple little chutes here. So when I open this up, it's just going to drip down through here, and I'm going to have a pan on the bottom collecting all the antifreeze. So that's that. Banshee Fever 750, tip and trick of the day for troubleshooting a faulty radiator fan switch. So feel free to chime in. Any suggestions or ideas? I'm aware of the method of putting the old sensor inside of the pot of boiling water, but I just didn't feel like doing that. I'm pretty sure that it's the sensor. So feel free to go on ahead and give me a thumbs up if you like the video. If it helps you, that's great. Banshee Fever 750, over and out.